If you've been listening in, you'll know I'm currently in Thailand, living in the question of how slow travel can help me marry my dedication to my work with my deep love for travel and adventure. And I have to say, immersing myself in different cultures, in new places and new spaces, always gives me so much food for thought around going after my dreams and living out my best life. A few nights ago, I had the pleasure of watching a young boy entertain himself on the beach in front of his parents' beachside restaurant where my husband and I were eating dinner. At least, to a casual onlooker, he was simply a young boy entertaining himself while his parents worked. But it didn't take long for me to realize he was working towards achieving a goal with a grit and determination I couldn't help but admire. This young boy, maybe around 8 years old, was ankle deep in the water casting a fishing net much bigger than him. Over and over, we watched as he threw that net, each time landing it in the shallow water at his feet. But he didn't seem to mind and didn't appear disheartened at all. Instead, with vigorous energy, he'd haul that net back in with delightful anticipation. Sometimes he would indeed catch a tiny fish, and sometimes nothing at all. Many times the net got tangled, and he would patiently unravel it before lumping its wet and heavy weight over his small shoulder, ready to throw it out once more. Watching him, I couldn't help but think how this young boy's casting of that net showcased five very powerful qualities that I believe are crucial in achieving one's dreams. I call them the 5 P's for success. And today I want to share these 5 qualities with you and hopefully give you food for thought around going after your dreams and living out your best life. Let's dive in. Welcome to the Self Creation School podcast for women who are ready to ditch mediocrity, step up and get more of what they want, and finally say yes to a life that sets their soul on fire. I'm your host, Leanne Letica, self creation coach, founder of the Self Creation School, and queen of yes. If you're ready to play life by your own personal rulebook and give yourself permission to say yes to yourself and your wildest dreams, this podcast is the place for you. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Self Creation School podcast. After a lot of rainy, overcast days here in Thailand, we have finally had beautiful blue skies and sunny weather these past few days. So we've been spending some glorious time relaxing by the pool and taking long walks along the beach. But being fair-skinned and having not much tolerance to the sun, I have to say I am relishing the chance to be indoors in the cool of the air conditioning today to record this podcast for you. I hope you are having a fabulous week too and saying yes to a life that lights you up in all the ways that truly matter to you. Today's conversation is inspired by one of those moments in life where you gain insight and motivation by observing, by noticing the effort and dedication in others, even when they seem to be up against big odds. Watching that boy cast his net into the shallow of the water at his feet again and again, despite the physical difficulty for his small little body, despite not throwing the net that far, despite mostly not catching any fish, despite probably being uncomfortably wet and sandy and more exhausted with each and every throw, I felt incredibly inspired. And it got me thinking about what it takes to succeed and my own journey towards achieving goals against the odds. I reflected on this and the endeavor of this young boy to cast his net over the next couple of days. And I identified 5 qualities that have been instrumental to my every success that this young boy so innocently demonstrated in his quest for success. I know these qualities have served me very well over the years and continue to serve me well. They will absolutely serve that young boy well if he continues to apply them in his life. And I know they will serve you well too. So let me share the 5 qualities that I believe will help you say yes to your biggest, boldest goals. I call them the 5 P's for success because, interestingly enough, each one of them starts with the letter P. And so let's start with the first and most important quality in my mind, and that quality is passion. Watching that young boy, it was clear that he wasn't casting the net out of duty or because someone asked him to. He was doing it because he wanted to. He was fully engaged, full of energy, and totally immersed in the task, despite how physically difficult it was for him. And his excitement never seemed to waver, even when the net barely went anywhere or he pulled it back in empty. That's the power of passion. Passion is the fuel that keeps you going when things get tough, when progress is slow, or when the odds are stacked against you. It's what keeps you coming back, trying again, and believing in the possibility of success. It's what turns a challenge into something you're willing to face over and over, just because it's connected to something you love. In my own life, I know for sure that passion has been the driving force behind this podcast. My passion for inspiring as many women as I can in my lifetime to challenge their norms, say yes to themselves, and create a life they love waking up to every single day. Because I have to say, and if you have ever had a podcast or ever tried doing one, you'll know launching a podcast is no small feat, and it has been far from easy for me to not just press publish on that very first episode, but to keep publishing week in, week out for now 44 episodes. There are so many moving parts to producing a podcast, and I had so many stories around why I couldn't and shouldn't do it, plus a whole lot of fear and discomfort putting my voice and ideas out there for the world to hear. And right through figuring out the technical side of things in those early days, disliking the sound of my own voice, and doing battle with my perfectionism and my not enoughness, the one thing that has kept me recording week after week is my passion for reaching women like you. I know the potential of how the insights, tips, and strategies I share in this podcast can impact lives, can help others say yes to themselves, and bring the empowerment I'm so passionate about. Passion drives me to turn up every week, fully engaged, full of energy, and totally immersed in the task, despite how difficult it has been and still can be some weeks. And my excitement for being able to reach women like you through this podcast and hopefully inspire you in some small way doesn't ever waver, no matter how challenging producing this podcast week after week can be. Your passion will always be the strongest foundation for any goal you pursue, whether you're launching a new business, starting a creative project, or even just making a major life change. If there's no passion, the challenges will feel overwhelming and it's easy to give up. But when your heart is fully in it, the obstacles become part of the adventure. So I invite you to ask yourself this question today. What are you passionate about? What lights you up inside, even when things get hard? Because that's where the magic begins, and that's where your journey towards your biggest goals should always start, with a passion that drives you. The second quality that I believe is essential for achieving your biggest, boldest goals is possibility. Watching that boy on the beach, you could tell he wasn't focused on the limitations of what he couldn't do. His throws weren't landing all that far, and most of the time he didn't catch anything. But that didn't stop him. Instead, he seemed focused on the possibility of what could happen. Each time he cast that net, it was with an optimistic anticipation. He believed that maybe, just maybe, this time he would catch something. And sometimes he did. That's the power of believing in possibility. It's about seeing potential, even when the evidence in front of you might suggest otherwise. It's about holding on to hope and trusting that what you're working towards is achievable, no matter how distant or how improbable it seems in the moment. And for me, passion may be the driving force behind recording a new podcast episode for you each week, come rain, hail, or shine. But possibility is what initially fueled the creation of this podcast. Honestly, in the beginning, I wasn't sure I'd ever be able to deliver a podcast that resonated or even found an audience. I didn't know if anyone would listen. But I had to trust the possibility that I could build something impactful, that my voice and my message could make a difference. I knew I didn't need to have all the answers. I just needed to believe in the possibility of what this podcast could become. When you embrace possibility, you open the door to growth and transformation. It allows you to move forward even when you don't have guarantees. When you believe in the possibility of success, you're more willing to take risk. You're more willing to put yourself out there and push beyond your comfort zone. Because even if things don't work out immediately, the belief in possibility keeps you moving forward. The truth is, without the belief in possibility, most dreams would never even get off the ground. We'd be too focused on the obstacles, too caught up in what could go wrong, and too afraid of failure. But when you shift your mindset to what if it works, everything changes. So take a moment to ask yourself, what possibility do you believe in today? Maybe you're not seeing the results yet. Maybe things are still challenging. But what if, with just one more try, one more step, you make the breakthrough? Possibility gives you the courage to keep going, even when the path isn't clear. It's what allows you to trust that the process will unfold in its own time. Which brings me to the third quality that is absolutely essential in achieving your biggest, boldest goals, which is patience. Patience is something that can often feel elusive, especially when we're working hard towards something we deeply care about. Watching that young boy on the beach casting his net over and over, what stood out to me was how patiently he untangled the net each time it became twisted. He wasn't frustrated or rushing through the process. Instead, he worked carefully and methodically, making sure that everything was in place before throwing the net out again. He didn't expect immediate results, and he wasn't looking for shortcuts. His patience was what allowed him to keep on going, even when things got complicated or the results were slow in coming. Patience is the quiet strength behind all progress. It's what keeps you steady when things aren't moving as quickly as you'd like or when setbacks appear out of nowhere. It's understanding that real, meaningful success doesn't happen overnight, and that's okay. The progress you're making might not always be obvious, but it is always happening. Let me tell you, patience continues to be such a massive part of my podcasting journey because podcasting is a powerful but very slow road to growing one's business. And it's easy to get discouraged when it feels like you're putting in so much effort without seeing a clear payoff or the results don't come as quickly as you'd like or expect, right? But I've learned over the years that patience means trusting the process, even when you can't yet see the results. For me, it's understanding that every episode I record, whether it feels perfect or not, whether it gets a lot of downloads or not, is a step forward. Patience has allowed me to embrace my imperfections, my ups and downs in recording this podcast, knowing that each episode adds up to something bigger. And the progress may be gradual, but it's real and it is lasting. Patience teaches us that when things feel slow, as long as we keep moving, we're still on the path towards our goals. So much of success is about staying the course, even when things take longer than we'd like. So here's a question for you to reflect on today. Where could you practice more patience in your life? Maybe there's something you're working towards that isn't moving as fast as you'd hope. Or maybe you're feeling frustrated with the lack of immediate results. Remember, patience isn't about waiting idly. It's about actively working towards your goals, trusting that with time, the results will come. And when they do, they'll be worth the wait. The fourth quality that plays a key role in achieving your biggest goals is perseverance. If there's one thing that stood out to me while watching that young boy, it was his sheer determination. Every time that net came back empty or he got tangled up in it, he didn't stop. He didn't throw his hands up in frustration or slump his shoulders in defeat and walk away. Instead, He untangled the net. He shrugged off his disappointment and he tried again and again and again. His perseverance was unwavering. That is what perseverance is all about. It's the ability to keep going even when things don't go your way. It's showing up time and time again, despite the setbacks, despite the failures, and despite the temptation to quit. Perseverance is about embracing the challenges and pushing through because you know deep down that success comes to those who don't give up. In my podcasting journey, perseverance has been absolutely crucial. There have been many times over these past 44 episodes when it has felt all too hard. Weeks where my schedule has been pushed for time, recording days where I've been unable to put two coherent midlife brain fog thoughts together, episodes where I've struggled to find inspiration, and times when I've doubted my message held any real value. But every time I hit a roadblock, whether it's external or internal, I remind myself why I started this podcast in the first place. And it's that deeper passion and purpose, knowing that what I'm sharing could help someone, could inspire someone, could be the difference in someone continuing to settle for less or reaching out for their wildest dreams. That's what helps me persevere. Listen, perseverance isn't glamorous. It's the behind the scenes work that most people don't see. It's the late nights, the hard moments, the times when everything feels uphill. But it's also the very thing that separates those who make it from those who don't. Anyone can start a project, but only those with the perseverance to stick it out long enough to see the results will succeed. And often it's not the first, second, or even the third attempt that brings the breakthrough. It's the 100th, and sometimes what feels like the zillionth. So let me ask you, where in your life can you apply more perseverance? Maybe you're feeling disheartened because progress seems slow, or you've encountered one too many setbacks. Perseverance will be the bridge between where you are right now and where you want to be. So keep showing up, keep doing the work, even when it feels like you're not moving fast enough, because perseverance is what will carry you all the way to success, my friend. Now, the fifth and final quality that will help you achieve your boldest dreams is the ability to trust in and recognize your progress. When I think back to that young boy on the beach, and every time he cast that net, he was making progress, even if it didn't look like much progress to anyone watching. Sometimes he caught a tiny fish, sometimes nothing at all. But with each throw, his technique improved. His muscles likely strengthened. His confidence certainly grew, and he became better at what he was doing. He was progressing, even if it wasn't obvious at first glance. Progress doesn't always announce itself with fireworks. In fact, most of the time, it's small, incremental, and very easy to miss if you're not paying attention. But the truth is, those tiny incremental steps are what build up to meaningful change over time. The key is to trust in the process and recognize that you are, in fact, moving forward, even when the results don't feel huge. As I mentioned a moment ago, in my podcasting journey, having trust that I will make progress towards my long term goals with each and every episode I publish has been a crucial factor in my ability to keep showing up week after week, despite some weeks it's seeming like I'm really making no progress at all. There have certainly been many weeks I've questioned if my efforts are making any difference. But when I stop to reflect, I can see the small victories, like how I feel more comfortable behind the mic, how I'm letting go of my perfectionism, how I'm more open to sharing the good and the bad parts of my own personal journey, and how my confidence is slowly but surely growing with each episode I record. None of these things happen overnight, but they are all forms of progress. True progress is often hidden in those small behind the scenes moments that no one else can see, in those tiny shifts in your mindset, the quiet build-up of your skills, and the gradual strengthening of your belief in yourself. It's those small steps, those tiny gains that eventually lead to those bigger breakthroughs. My friend, it's so easy to get caught up in the final destination, to focus solely on achieving that big goal and to forget that every step you take is a progress towards it. Whether you're catching the big fish or not, you are moving forward. So I want you to remember not to underestimate the power of small progress. Every action, every bit of effort is moving you closer to your dreams. It's a compounding effect of these little steps that lead to the major transformations. And learning to recognize and celebrate those small steps that you take forward is vital because it helps you to stay motivated. Like I said before, it's easy to get disheartened when the big breakthrough hasn't arrived yet. But when you trust that every bit of effort is building towards something greater, you can keep going with confidence. Celebrating even the tiniest progress along the way really does fuel your perseverance and keeps your passion alive. So here's a question to ask yourself today. Where in your life can you celebrate your progress no matter how small? Maybe it's not the huge leap forward you're hoping for, but it's a step in the right direction. Maybe it's a step backwards that you learn from that helps you take a more powerful step forward. Celebrate that progress too, because this is how you build momentum, and that is what will ultimately carry you forward. Trust that each and every little step you take adds up over time, and eventually they will lead to the success you're working toward. Remember, progress is about the journey as much as it is about the destination. Celebrate it, trust in it, and know that every small win is moving you closer to your dreams. So, those are the five qualities that I truly believe will help you say yes to your biggest, boldest dreams. Let's recap them briefly before I bring this episode to a close. Quality number one is passion, that driving force that keeps you going when things get tough. It's what makes the challenges worth facing because you're working towards something you love. Quality number two is possibility, the belief in what could happen, even when the evidence isn't yet obvious. It's about holding on to the hope and trust that success is within reach if you keep moving forward. Quality number three is patience, the quiet strength that helps you stay steady and persistent, even when the results are slow. It's trusting that your efforts will pay off and understanding that meaningful success doesn't happen overnight. Quality number four is perseverance, the determination to keep going no matter the setbacks. It's pushing through, showing up again and again, knowing that success comes to those who don't give up. And lastly, quality number five is to trust in and recognize your progress. The ability to recognize and celebrate the small steps you're taking, knowing that each one is moving you closer to your dreams. It's about trusting the process and believing that every bit of effort is building towards something bigger. These five P qualities are not only the foundation for achieving your goals, but they also keep you grounded in the journey itself, reminding you to enjoy the process, to celebrate the small victories, and to trust that your efforts are making a difference. As you go about the rest of your week, I invite you to take a moment to reflect on which of these five qualities you can lean into more in your own life. Whether it's reigniting your passion, trusting in the possibility of what's to come, practicing more patience, persevering through a tough challenge, or celebrating the progress you've already made. Remember, every step you take matters and supports you in saying yes to you and a life you love. And my friend, I encourage you to say yes to yourself today. Say yes to your dreams, your passions, and your progress. And yes to the belief that you are capable of creating the life you truly want. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope this episode has given you the inspiration and encouragement that you need to keep casting the net to make your boldest dreams your reality. If you've enjoyed today's episode, I'd love for you to share it with someone who might also need this message or leave me a review to help others find our community. This week marks the end of my 3 week stay in Koh Samui, so I'll be back next Wednesday from a new place in Thailand. I can't wait to share that one with you. Until then, be the woman who says yes. Hey, want to know what's stopping you from saying yes to you and a life you love? Head over to selfcreationschool.com/yesblock and take my free 60-second quiz to find out what's standing in your way today. And I'll send you my self-creation shift process for shifting it. That's selfcreationschool.com/yesblock. I'll see you there.